and welcome to ASL Season 15 post-draft rankings as requested by Ghost himself. I am here with Cam.
Hello.
And Peach.
I'm not blank. Sorry to disappoint.
And we will run through each roster with all the transactions that have happened so far. We'll give you our quick thoughts on them, and we'll probably say some mean things about Shadow. What could go wrong? First team, we had the Skitter Smack Taillows, which is Dravos' new thing. It's a new thing for him, right? First season?
Yeah, he was Bellingham Klepke's last time.
Yeah, okay, I like it. Nice logo. So I gave him an A-. Cameruption gave him an A. Peach gave him a B. My thoughts on Dravos' team: I like the speed tiers. I like the offense. I like the kind of flow of the roster. Webs, to me, even though Zamazenta is fast, Webs helps a lot with your Scarfers. I do think this team struggles with fighting types in that basically every fighting type knows knockoff. So his switch-ins to fighting type is Comfey, Latias, maybe, or some Colbert things. So Valplume, potentially. Outside of that, I have very few complaints. I think it's really strong. Dravos is a really good coach. He made it to finals last season, right? So I expect good things. This is a good roster, good offense. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I gave it the most critical grade. My main thing being that he has kind of, and I'm going to use this phrase a lot this video, so get ready to learn it. I call them one-note mons. They're just kind of inflexible. They don't really have a lot of versatility in what they can do. And he has kind of a few of those in like Tyrannistar, Chandelure, Lando Eye a little bit. Not actually as much as some of the other things. Comfey as a mon that you're going to be relying on for fighting types, coming to a lot of games, being like completely worthless against steel types, and also just pretty much the only thing it really has going for it is the priority drain, kiss, Giga Drain, and some utility. It's not something you really want to rely on. I also don't like the speed gaps between 100 to 90 with Kangaskhan, 90 to 80, but more notably the 80 to 61. I feel like there's going to be things that kind of just weave their way in there and take advantage of that. That will be tough for him.
Yeah, overall, I kind of went in the middle of the pack and just gave it the A. It's overall, this just felt like a very good, solid team. Actually, more than solid, a pretty great team. It's not like my absolute favorite because, I think I definitely agree with Brad on the fighting type weakness thingy, where just having two of your best mons be weak to the same type, and then it helps that at least the steel type is neutral rather than weak to it as well in Bronzong. But pretty just a good, solid, well balanced team with a couple little flaws that y'all have kind of already really touched on the main ones.
Yeah, love the Vileplume and the Evo. One of the best mons in all of A tier.
That's a great pick.
Huge
I will
value.
say something I just noticed. He doesn't have flying coverage anywhere. Like Lando Eye Fly is not something you want to run.
Meh. Dravos laughs at flying coverage.
Aerial
typing book.
Okay, we'll move on to the next one.
All right, so we have Shadow's team, PC Barcelona. Brad gave it a C+, Cameruption gave it a B, and I myself gave it a C+. This team, if you needed someone to point it out to you, is very top-heavy bulk and sort of middle-heavy offense with some just kind of picks that I feel like were tagged on there, like the Lucario, who we discussed earlier, doesn't really feel like it fills any sort of role when Scissor's on this team. And I mean, it's one of those things, you go into ASL, you look at the tiers, it's like you either pay premium price for bulk or you pay premium price for premium offense. And Shadow, I guess this time decided he wanted to opt for the premium bulk. And his offense just kind of, it feels lackluster. There's not a whole lot of, there's a lot of one-note mons from Barraskewda down. And I feel like he's just lacking some good utility from the bottom tiers, that he's going to rely on Clefable for a lot more than he probably wants to. And just really needs like more hard hitters.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So I'm the weirdo here who's a little bit higher on this team than y'all two. Which this is one where it's like I really didn't like it at first, but like the more I stare at it, it's like it's top heavy, but like Clefable, Mega Venusaur, Scizor, like that's such a good top three that can just sit on the field. Like they'll win games by themselves just by virtue of not dying if Shadow can play it right. And the offense definitely could be better. Completely agree with the Lucario not really doing a whole lot here. But overall, I think it's just the bolt is going to be what kind of can give him the edge. Hopefully, if he hopes to do well this season.
Yeah, my main issues, like I think it's been said a couple times, is just not every slot to me is optimal. Something like, just as an example, like Beware instead of Lucario, giving him a regular normal type that will be normal, every week, unlike Silvally, which probably will never run normal type. I think that would give him a little bit more of a threat, a little bit more of a reliable typing, or even dropping Lucario for Honchkrow, and then maybe moving Murkrow on to something else. I don't know. My issue with these types of teams, when you run, this isn't stall, which great. Everybody hates stall. So good for him. But it's not really like semi-stall either. It's something like a little to the left of that, where it's not semi-stall, it's not balanced, but like, what is it? It's not a meta. It's just like a roster that's kind of in the middle of everything. Like, okay, I've got these really strong bulk options, but I've got this offense over here that's going to die in 2 hits, and I'm just going to sandwich them together. And like, maybe that works, maybe it does,
Maybe.
but I don't think it's gonna be a consistent roster. I think there are gonna be weeks where teams cannot overcome Clefable, Venusaur, Scizor. And I think there are going to be weeks where teams have the right breakers to take on that core, and the rest of the roster will not be able to withstand and hold up. Okay, we'll
All right.
move on to Peach's team.
All right. So this team is a pretty good, solid team. I went with a B on it. It's got some very, very hard hitting special offense. Was the first thing I noticed just with the top 3 mons alone. Darkrai, Zapdos, Volcarona, those all hit ridiculously hard. But kind of with that is that one of my biggest problems was that the physical offense isn't the most ideal. Like Cobalion can hit hard, but it really kind of needs a setup or a rock pollock weakness policy or something of that sort, just because base 90 doesn't do much damage even with stab close combat. But and then same sort of thing with Zygarde 10%, where it's got the cool arrows move, but it probably wants either Dragon Dance or Choice Band or something to just punch a little bit harder. But on top of besides that, it's a very, very solid team. It's got a bunch of Stealth Rock options. Like Swampert, Samon that probably can come with Stealth Rocks every week and be fine, but it doesn't have to. When Uxie and Cradilly are great as well. Garbodor for spikes, toxic spikes. It's not like the amazing team, but like it has a Darkrai on it, and it has a little bit of everything needed to function.
Yeah, I like the team. To me, the A through C is really fun. It's really powerful. It's got some good utility. To me, like Cobalion's one of those mons that can kind of do a lot of things, and can run a lot of different sets. Uxie, to me, is maybe the most versatile mon in terms of what it can check, what it can provide on a week-to-week basis. And then he's got just really cool, fun offense. Of course, everyone knows Door, Zapdos, to infinity and beyond. My main issue, which I've said to these guys when we were talking about the teams, is to me, the speed tier for this team really drops from 95 to 60. Now, I know that he's got 65 in Komala, he's got 75 in Banette, he's got 75 in Garbodor, but those aren't mons that I'm going to have to respect on a week-to-week basis as a preparing opponent. In terms of his weekly brings, his mons are going to get 8 or more appearances. His real speed drop is 95 to 60. And maybe he can make a transaction to fix that, or he can just really bring those low tier mons and make people respect him. But unless he does that, he's going to face a lot of adamant, a lot of modest, a lot of bold, a lot of calm, and that makes a big difference at this level of competition.
Well, my name is Peach, and I'm once again asking for your respect. Yeah, I mean, I look at the team too, Brad. You're absolutely right. Like, I do kind of plan. This is a team I look at, and I say, like, I think I'm gonna be mixing and matching a lot between like my top 6 and my bottom 6 on what I bring each week, because that's where a lot of my physical offense rides. It's got a lot of fun with my team, and I was looking at trades, and I found that every time like I wanted to remove something, the team would kind of just fall apart without it. Like Cobalion, for example, if I remove the Cobalion, like there's no like 1 or 2 mon answers that I can just like replace that with, and like another one of the other mons with. It's like that. Same thing with Yuxi, same thing with like Cradilly was something I was debating. So I mean, it's something where you'll probably like 2 to 3 weeks, you'll probably see the team get completely revamped if it's not doing well. If it's on a free win streak, then you might see the revamp later. You might never see it. It's a feel them out for team for me, but overall, I think I like it. It's not my favorite draft ever, but it's not my worst draft ever.
And that's one thing too that I think is worth pointing out, that you see a lot of coaches give up on their teams way too early. And yeah, I make post-draft transactions. If there's one that's like, oh, if I'd seen this in the draft, I would have made this pick instead. There's nothing wrong with that, but don't give up on your team week 1. Like, you drafted these mons, let them play on the field. Prep with them a couple of weeks, figure it out, and then if they're not working, they're not working. Okay.
Kind of the opposite, where I'm like, if you can avoid L's, make the trades, do what you got to do. But
you can always
if you're unsure, play it.
You can always go.
But you can't make up the L's you already have. Is the thing.
You can go on a 9-game win streak at any time. It's fine. You're fine. Don't worry about it.
Not on week 6.
It's fine. You'll be fine. Okay. Cam's team, the Houston Tynamos. Is it me? I've already forgotten.
It's you, actually.
That's me. Oh my goodness. We all liked this team. Got an A- overall, which is thematically something you're going to run into for the next 30 or 40 minutes. I like this team. I'm really glad to see a quality coach take a new mon like Sylveon. Cam has never really tried it, and I'm glad that he's stepping out of the box. He's not just going to Baskin Robbins and ordering vanilla. No, he's going to go up there and say, I want something new. I want something different. I want to challenge myself. And so I'm proud of you for doing that, going out of the box, you're not just getting some kind of typical like steel fairy pairing that's really common and powerful. No, I'm glad you're doing new things. You're evolving as a coach, so I'm proud of you.
I mean, Jirachi Morgrem is not the most common steel fairy pairing, I will say. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of cookie cutter Cameruption as we're looking at it. I do like the Spectre here. I think it has a lot of cool pairs that work for it, especially like with the Infernape, the Sylveon, yeah, and even the Scolipede. Although it's gonna be hard to want to Scolipede, you really tempted to run that baton pass, but you can't do that with the speed boost. Yeah, solid team. I gave the lowest rating. I'm trying to remember why. I think uh I'm trying to remember why. I don't really remember why. I just felt that way about it at the time, but I was just motivated by Brad's words. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So overall, I like my team. I think it turned out pretty well. Always exciting to try brand new things for the third time in a row in Sylveon. You know, uh, but kind of the main thing with this was that I've been wanting to use Spectre for a while. So once I finally got it, I knew that okay, I had to get. I knew I wanted to try Scolipede again just because I'd used that for like 3 or 4 games at the very end of last season and liked it, but didn't get a chance to do a whole lot with it. So, all right. So I knew that I wanted a good bug type, a good fairy type, and a good fighting type. Which, I was kind of surprised to get Infernape as late as I did because it was like a round 6 or 7, kind of weirdly mid draft pick. But overall, it's definitely like the top. I hope I get to use the lower mons at least a decent amount. I'll see how much they wind up actually coming, but some stuff like the grass type with contrary superpower would be potentially fun for Spectrier. Bravery with close combat. So hopefully I get to showcase my main one. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I look forward to the 13 appearances for Sylveon and the 12 appearances for Jirachi. So
Mhm.
that'd be nice.
There's some fun ease to showcase there.
All
Our next
right.
team, the Energy Ballers. Brad gave it A-. Everyone gave it an A-, actually. I don't know why I bothered getting that off. This team has like the fun award for me. If like my team doesn't get it, this team gets it. Because there's just a lot of mons here that are like Zera, you click buttons. Lottie's kind of standard, but like Mega Pidgeot, No Guard Hurricanes and Heat Waves. Who doesn't enjoy that? Double Shell Smash? Like, come on. And then of course Blaziken just being like the new speed boost setter. Overall, it's a very cool team. My really only gripe with it is that your priority hinges on Vacuum Wave Blaziken and Sucker Punch Skuntank. But other than that, the speed tiers are great and typings and synergies are pretty good. Also, the Amistars not really doing much, but I guess Brad will say his piece on that. Threatens hazards. It threatens hazards in the second Shell Smash sweeper, but other than that, it's just kind of there for the memes.
Yeah, this is definitely a really fun team for sure. With Blaziken, and kind of like I know a lot of people were like kind of saying like, is it really like obviously it's a good one, but like is it like the best A tier? We don't really know, so we'll probably look like a bunch of idiots for not drafting it when Brad destroyed everyone with it. But Blaziken's there, or the first 5 are absolutely ridiculous, just in terms of the offense they can bring, or as well as potential bulk in Blastoise's case. Really, the only thing it's not like a full A or an A plus for me is that some of the once you get Serena down, it's like they're all like functional, like low tier support, bulk, etc. But like none of them are super spectacular or gonna catch you off guard with that crazy set unless you survive the Shell Smash Blastoise just to get hit with the double Shell Smash into Omastar, But so but overall, just very, very, very good, well balanced team with some crazy, crazy hitters up front that a lot of them are pretty fast and is going to give people problems.
Yeah. I like this team. I mean, what can I say? After like last season, I did not want like a team where I felt like pressured to be great or to do special things. Like I just wanted something fun. And so that's how I built this roster. That's how I'm going to prep this season. That's my mentality coming in season. Like I just want to have a good time. I want to do things I shouldn't be able to do with Mons that shouldn't do these things. Like, I want to feature Mega Pidgeot. I want to swap Mega Pidgeot in on hits and take damage and blow things up with Hurricane and do things with Blaziken I shouldn't do and just have a good time. And I think this roster gives me the platform and the flexibility that I crave to just, I don't know, have artistic freedom in this meta. So the bottom half isn't exciting, but they enable me to be creative with the top half. So I'm really looking forward to playing with this roster and having a good time. And that's really it. And
All right, next we have Mogo, our sleepyhead of the draft. Yeah, which actually the first thing I'll say was for like missing like the entire draft. The team he wound up with is like still solid for sure. Greninja, Mega Arrow. That's a really threatening duo. Galarian Slowking as well can kind of mix in, do some. It can be offensive, it can be defensive, which unfortunately will probably be more defensive more often than not on this roster. Would be just kind of my initial projection, just because the bulk is really pretty much just Vaporeon and Klefki. But I've got some pretty hard hitters, but you know, there's just a couple of stuff about it that I just don't really like Regigigas and Eldegoss. Really don't like those E tier picks. Obviously, it is the lowest tier, but like there were better normal and grass types available for sure.
yeah.
So it's kind of okay. That's how I feel about it.
I think this is a really good team considering that Mogo missed the entire draft. To me, this is a really nice roster if you know the whole story.
Sure.
But outside of that, there are some issues. I really like the top 3 in particular. Feel really good about those. But like, if you're a team and you can counter Greninja and you can swap in a Mega Aerodactyl, he's gonna have a really hard time breaking your roster. Like, Gardevoir is gonna have to come and be a big hitter or a breaker. Dredagon, maybe a banded Dredagon, is gonna have to act as a breaker. And every week, you're gonna be relying on Greninja and Arrow to be your breakers, or you're gonna have to pull in something that's really low tier to help you out. Uh, I don't love that. I wish that he had maybe, instead of going with Scrafty, maybe going with like Imbor. And I know Imbor was picked and there's nothing he could do. But I mean, that's not my fault. I'm just sitting here making making a review video. But something a little more offensive to take some of the pressure off of Greninja, some of the pressure off of Aerodactyl. That's my big issue with the team. Other than that, I think it's fine. Vaporeon's great support for everything. Glow King is unbelievable. Klefki's cool. Like, he's got nice pieces. I just struggle with his offense, and I think he will struggle with his offense at times.
Yeah, I strongly feel like his tier D and E could have been a little I guess fought over better is the best way to put it, considering he had pretty much all the time in the world after draft ended anyway. But people were already making grace period trades, so obviously you don't want to wait too long. But that's in the past, and now it's he has 12 mons like everyone else. I absolutely just have no respect for the tier E's aside from Stunfisk. Stunfisk is funny. It's a pancake. What can I say? But it's not really offering a ton that any other ground type wouldn't already do, or like the Rotom Frost isn't already doing. Eldegoss is it's rapid spin and then it's grass and bug regenerator mon. It's not doing anything special there. Regigigas needs like an army of support. It needs like you can bring like 6 mons to a game and you still need the other 6 to support Regigigas. And if he can make that work, like kudos, but I say that's more of a failure on his opponent's part than a success on his.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day too, like the Glow King, the Klefki, and the Vaporeon have to be very bulky all the time, and he's gonna rely on them defensively a lot. And I think when one of those falls, the other two and the rest of the squad will just kind of go with it. But overall, not bad. Very strong offense.
Yeah. Mogo's a good coach. He'll make do. He'll make it work. But I do expect in the next coming weeks that he'll make a couple of transactions that will bolster his offense. That's my suspicion. We'll see. Okay. I believe I'm up, and we're talking about Blake. Oh, Blakey boy. I like the team overall. It was Bulu last season that he drafted and had a lot of success with. He goes back to the well, grabs the Bulu again. Strong choice, especially for a coach that kind of stepped away from the meta for a while. Smart choice there. Picks the Toxapex, which is going to benefit from the grassy terrain, but also guarantee that everyone else in the league hates you at the same time. I don't know if that's a gain or if that's a net loss. I'm not sure. I love Tornai. Tornai is one of my very, very favorite mons in this format. Legitimately, I'm not saying that jokingly. Tornai is super versatile. It does a lot of things well. 111 is a busted speed tier. Boots is a thing now. I've won a trophy here with Tornai. I think it's unbelievable value for C tier. Great pick. Love the Pult. I like a lot of what he's doing at the top. But no dark type, which is just what? And then, his only real psychics options are Magnezone and Meloetta. And those are mons that are good, but those are pretty easy mons to plan for. You can do a lot in prep to neutralize those two mons. I would like to see him better improve his ability to take on arguably the best typing in the game. Outside of that, I think it's a pretty fun roster.
Yeah, I think he just really desperately lacks that dark type, and I think also just like his Toxapex just won't ever really. I don't think Toxapex is going to have an easy time walling people when they realize his electric switch-ins Marowak, his psychic switch-ins are Magnezone, Meloetta, and otherwise it's him just putting on pressure, which he has a team that can do well. Dragapult can U-turn, Bulu's gonna hit hard with Wood Hammer. Me and Xiao U-turning. I love the regenerator core if he opts for it, or if he opts for reckless high jump kick, all the damage. Love Tornai. I hate Lycanroc midday. That is the worst D tier by far. Completely garbage. That is easily a slot he could put like a dark type like Drapion in or something. Zoroark. I will just read off every dark type in tier D. I have the tier list up. Leafeon also feels kind of redundant when Bulu's there. I feel like there's a better option, but if Leafeon gets Grassy Glide, I'm not too sure offhand. Then I guess it's cool. But overall, really solid roster for Blake. Just needs that dark type.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of pretty much reiterate what both of y'all said because it's very very fun. Okay, Toxapex is fun, but the other top mons of Dragapult, Bulu, and Shell, Torn Eye all seem really cool. Meloetta, one of the better D tier mons for sure. There's plenty of sets that he can run with those to get creative, but yeah, there's just certain typings that this team doesn't appreciate, to where even if I like the top mons, I just couldn't put any higher than B. Just being the Marowak for your electric immunity. I think it can be a fun like E tier pick, but you need something else. On this particular team, when your main wall is going to be weak to electric. Same goes for the lack of a dark type. I think there were definitely better options, probably, whether it's in place of the Lichen Rock, in place of the Leafeon, Mega Glalie. Somewhere in there, you probably could have prioritized getting one of those, a better ground type and a dark type, which really are kind of unfortunate. I think they could potentially wind up pulling this team back, but if he can stay in control and just keep nuking things with Bulu, and then find his opening for Dragapult or Mian Xiao, it can be a pretty scary offense that no one wants to face.
Yeah. The one thing I do want to come back around to and say though, like, I am personally someone who doesn't put a lot of stock into like cores, like Firewater Grass or Dragon Fairy Steel. But there are some things that are tried and true. Like having a great ground type is almost always a good thing. Having a bulky water is usually a good thing. Having a dark type is usually a good thing. A reliable fairy. Like this team kind of breaks a little bit too many of those rules for me. Like you've got a really porous ground type, you have no dark type, and you don't have a traditional bulky fairy. Like there's just a little too many of those rules are broken along the way for me to feel comfortable with this roster. That being said, should be good.
That Zoroark is screaming at him. It actually would be so sick if he gets Zoroark and he pulls off some illusion shenanigans. That would be so funny.
All right.
Next we got Teej or TJ, like lowercase TJ, not to be confused with uppercase TJ, who also reps a Slowbro mascot. We'll call him Teej, I guess. And everyone gave him an A-, and team very solid. I love the offense between Kyurem Black, Rillaboom, Priority Grassy Glides, Mega Lopunny, Gengar, Metagross is solid. Like, honestly, the whole team just loops around to being very solid. The Clefairy in E, I think people have given him enough flack for that, but I see the Grimmsnarl in D, and I don't really know what the Clefairy is offering other than like very budget Wishport, which I think there's places where the team really appreciates the extra healing because there isn't a whole lot of natural healing outside of like Rotom's Pain Split and Rillaboom's grassy terrain. So maybe there were better places to get that. Talonflame's Roost, of course, too. But overall, I like this team a lot. Probably, maybe my favorite draft, maybe not, but I'll throw that out there because I didn't say it for the other teams, and I wasn't really too focused on ranking these teams like first through 14th. I was more just like A minus, B minus, etc.
All right, yeah. So this is a really good team. Basically, kind of what I landed on for this team was if it kind of covered its fighting weakness or from the top two mons like just a little bit better, it would probably be my favorite draft. Like no questions asked. Just because the top five are ridiculous. There's some really nice support in the lower tiers to back it up. But the fighting weakness just kind of rubs me a little bit the wrong way. You know, uh, he has two fairy types, but one is a Clefairy and the other is only neutral to fighting rather than resistant to it. So, I don't know. I'm drawing I think like Hatterene was in the same tier as Grimmsnarl, so something like that potentially could have helped with the fighting weakness a little bit more. But no, it's going to be a really, really scary team that does not look very fun to prep against at all. Just from how hard those top five are going to hit. So good job, Teej. This is a really, really fun looking team.
For sure. And again, I think it's good to point out like a draft recap or a draft review video is meant to kind of pick apart teams, sort them out, find little things here and there. Like that's kind of the fun of it, right? That's the point. There's nothing wrong with this team. It's fine. It's going to be good. He'll be able to use it effectively. Like in a perfect world, would it be a little bit more balanced between physical attack and special attack? Yeah, probably so, right? Could he benefit from maybe not having, let's say, Metagross and maybe having Renucleus? And that way he can take on fighting types a little better or some. Sure, yeah, there's a lot of things he could do, but there's nothing wrong with this roster. It's fine. There's plenty of mons he can put together with this team and win a lot of games. So pressure's on you if you suck this season. It's because you suck. Because this is a really good team, and it should perform really, really well. I'm really excited to see this team take the field. Should be solid.
I will say Reuniclus is not C tier as much as I've been campaigning for that for like the past 3 seasons, but so
It's always next year.
He
Always
couldn't
next year.
really switch the Metagross for that.
Always next year.
I also want to ask, does Seismitoad just take damage from grassy terrain when it comes out? Because it feels like it should.
No. Rindoberry, he's fine. Don't worry about it.
Oh, alright, cool.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Alright, my turn?
Yeah.
Alright, so you got Ghost Team who I don't know, this is a weird team just because I mean y'all can read, the grades aren't quite as high as some of the others, but there's some really, really hard hitting mons on this roster. Hoopa Unbound and Victini, those are and Heracross too. Those are like 3 just nukes, like whenever they can find a free switch in, which unfortunately with the roster, finding those free switch ins without sacking something might be a little bit hard at times. But there is the really good options, which is kind of the main thing keeping us afloat, in my opinion. But there's definitely some flaws here. The speed tiers are just simply put not very good. Swallow is a decent mon, but that's your only thing above base 100, and it's not a come every week mon, so that's a little worrisome. So, there are webs, which is nice, but I still think that between Koopa, Victini, and Heracross, there's probably a good chance that like at least one of those is going to be scarfed in a given week, just out of necessity. But it's got some really. It's not very conventional, but it's got some really potential to just hit really hard and just cause people more problems. It's certainly not a team that you want to overlook in prep for sure.
Yeah. But the thing I'll say about this team is if you just handed me this roster blind and you said, hey, guess which coach in the ASL drafted this roster? This is Ghost all day long. Like, I could point this out a million miles away. This is what he does. He drafts things that he likes, he's excited about using. They're going to be fun for him. He's going to have a good time with them. Like, this is a Ghost roster through and through. It's not a conventional roster, but if it was, he wouldn't use it. He wouldn't draft it because that wouldn't appeal to him. So I look forward to seeing Ghost use this roster, seeing him make it work. But there are a lot of things in this roster that are not conventional. or that kind of break like the draft league rules or etiquette. We have 3 psychic types. We have 2 ghost types. We have 2 dragons. 2 flying types. Our only ground is Rhydon. Like we can only set up rocks with our last pick of the lowest tier. There are a lot of things that are not approved by the conventional draft league wisdom, but that's what makes it a ghost team, and that's probably why I'll have a lot of fun with it and get some solid wins with it. No question about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to add. It's definitely not a good team. The hazards are very minimal. The the value from each tier, which honestly doesn't really matter, it's how the team comes together. The team comes together and there's triple psychic and a lot of just duplicate types that really don't add anything as well. There's Hoopa and Celesteela, which need a lot of team support, and they ideally would want it from the other A tier, the other B tier. And then he throws on like Victini, which is doing like what Hoop is doing, but a little faster and fire type. I'd say I'd grade this lower, but he drafted some of my favorite mons like Heracross. Gotta give respect for that boy. Um, and he also sniped me on Mega Altaria, so I guess he got that one from me and probably a few other coaches.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know. I feel like he's got to make. I feel like he's got to use all 3 transactions, or he's got to just figure something out. I'm not sure I see this team sticking around the way it is very long.
Nah, this is a ghosty boy team. We'll see it.
Definitely a ghost team.
All right. Next up, we have Keesters, Phoenix, Flygons. I bet you'll never guess the grade. It may also be the same grade as 8 other teams. I don't know. But I like this team. Keester's traditionally a pretty solid drafter, pretty dependable when it comes to draft day. And he did a pretty good job here. I like every single Mon he drafted. There's not a single Mon on this list that I'm like, I don't really care for that Mon personally. No, I like all of these. This should be fun. Megazam does not get Nasty Plot this season. Just FYI, that's a recent change. But Corviknight, I used it last year. It's stupid. It's impossible to kill in the right matchups. He doesn't have like the best fire type switches to support Corviknight necessarily, but he does have some. I love Tentacruel. I'm just a huge homer for Gen 1. Crocodile is one of my favorite ground types. Magmortar is awesome. Like, I just love this roster. The Mons on this roster. I don't really care if they support each other well or not. I think it's really fun. This is the kind of roster I would want to use.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Mons actually really do just come together well and support each other. He has plenty of switch-ins for the Corviknight. He actually has 2 ground types for the electric types. There's not a whole lot I can really knock on it, to be honest. I think if I had to have like one gripe, I'd say the main thing is that it looks like Crocodile is going to be running Stealth Rock a lot because the other Stealth Rocker is Sandslash, which I don't think he's going to be really running with Crocodile that much. And the only other hazard outside of those 2 is Tentacruel Toxic Spikes, but we're in a Boots meta, so that really doesn't bother me that much. His speed tiers are great. The typings are all like just very synergistic. He just has a lot of good mons there. Really just all comes together, very solid. And I mean, I always give Keester credit for this. He is pretty much one of the only people I can count on to draft like a scary team or like an A grade team like every season, and he did that again this season.
Yeah, this is a really, really strong team. Mega Alakazam, even without Nasty Plot, it's still pretty scary. Just the speed tier alone. Base when you got same with air when you got like a strong base 150 speed that's coming every week. That's pretty yikes. For people to prep for, and then Corviknight, Kieran, just a really, really fun. This looks like a really fun pairing. Corviknight is always annoying to kill, but Kieran has gotten quite a bit more versatile in Gen 8, I'd say, just with there's the traditional pressure, kind of bulky set, but there's also, it can be Dragon Dance or just Specs hits really hard, especially now that it has Freeze Dry. So it's just got some fun options for sure. I do think the bulb could be maybe a tiny bit better. Just with you know, uh, 'cause it's mainly obviously out. The caveat being a tiny bit better outside of Corviknight, which is one of the most obnoxious mobs to kill. But yeah, you got Tentacruel, Decidueye, so Buzzwole, which has ridiculous physical defense stat, but a terrible split F set. So maybe it could be a little bit tiny bulkier. Maybe would be at least my preference, but it's a good team for sure. Maybe a little bit more rocks, but no, it's a really strong team that's got some pretty creative options on it and some pretty hard hitting options. So he gets the triple A minus.
Yeah. I will say, just to differentiate, I get what could have gotten it a higher grade for me. I do think that he has somewhat of a speed tier issue in my opinion. In that I think his highest speed tier that you're going to prep for is 109. You're not regularly going to prep for Floatzel, and you're probably going to bring a Scarfer to deal with Megalakazam. So the highest speed tier that you're going to worry about on a prep week to week basis is 109, which isn't great. I would like to have seen maybe a more reliable 120s or something in there to kind of help support the speed tier a little bit. But you're probably going to see teams with mons that are 130, are going to be running Adamant or Modest. 125s probably going to be doing the same, and then just bringing a Scarfer to help with Zam. That is my main complaint about this team.
Honestly, I'd be happy to change my grade to an A. He's just really solid team. I don't have the same speed issue you have because I respect the tiers, and I also think people are just going to sleep on Kyurem a ton while prepping for Zam.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
To Ian.
Yeah, next we got Lillay, the plus minus rollers.
No. Do you? I've got Ian on my doc. Ian is next on mine.
Oh, I skipped ahead. My bad. I skipped ahead a slide. We got Ian with the Human Scolipedes. And gave B minuses 1B. This team, it feels there's quite a bit of redundancy here. I feel like it's definitely not one of Ian's best rosters. I think the top three, Mega Diancie, Kartana, and Slowking are all great. They all synergize together very well. Slowking covering the fire weaknesses and stuff, but I mean, you start looking around after you don't have a ton to deal with fighting types that will carry knockoff coverage. They'll carry Stone Edge or just something else for Crobat on the squad. The Emboar's cool. It hits really hard. The Piloswine, I think you can throw Piloswine on any team and it'll be great. But I mean, the type Null is not doing anything. The Miltank isn't doing better. The Electivire just feels like a waste of a D pick, honestly. Gourgeist is cool. I love Gourgeist because you can essentially change its speeds around. So you see the base 54 Gourgeist there, you can sacrifice your 85 health and go all the way up to 99 speed and catch people off guard, which I think is really sick. But I don't know how useful that's going to be going the faster Gourgeist when you have Kartana. And yeah, there's just it's one of those teams where you can definitely tell there's a lot off and you can maybe pick out one or two things to fix, but maybe there's one or two things that it's just not evidently apparent. I'm not sure what else I would fix immediately besides dropping the type null.
Yeah, this is a pretty interesting team to say the least. It's another one of those teams that kind of defies a little bit of quote unquote conventional draft wisdom, where one of the more overrated things that was preached when a lot of people were getting into it was the Fairy Dragon Steel Core or whatever. But what's super interesting to me is that the Fairy type and the Steel type are both super offensive, which is not something that seems too common these days. But But despite these two traditionally bulky types being like really offensive, there's still a ton of bulk, which is probably why I think I'm a little bit higher on this than the other two. It's just like Slowking, Gudra, Miltank, Gorgeist, certain Crobat sets, certain Piloswine sets. It can take a lot of hits and do just enough pivoting to get in the main breakers of Mega Diancie and Kartana. So it's a little bit of a weird team. I kind of agree with the kind of the same picks that Peeps didn't like either. With Electivire, you could probably grab arguably a better electric type from E tier, whether it's like Raichu or something, or type null. Not exactly sure what that really does here, but it's a little bit of a weird team, but it's got some bulk to it. It's got some offense to it. But all one of those that like I want to see in action before I could be a little bit higher on it.
I love the Gudra. Ian has a history with Gudra. He's played really well with Gudra in the past. I'm glad to see him drafting it again. My primary issue with this team, or my concern with this team, is it's really, really reliant on Slowking. He needs to get in the Kartana basically for free. It's almost startling to see Kartana's SPDF stat. Like, if you haven't seen it in a while or you forget what it is, like 31 SPDF is impossible. It's just ridiculous. You need the Slowking to teleport to get you into Kartana, to get you into Diancie. He's got other defensive pivots, but like Miltank doesn't get you into Kartana. It just takes a hit for you. He's going to really heavily rely on Slowking, which is a problem. It just is. It doesn't have a lot of other ways to support it. Maybe he can add a Wish Passer that would potentially help. I don't know. That's my main issue with this team. I'm not going to restate everything that's already been said. Really scary offense. Diancie, Kartana, Imbor, those are like, I don't know. I'll have to figure that out some week. I'm not looking forward to that offense, but I do think this team, like, if you take out Slowking, particularly if you take out Slowking early, I think Ian's going to struggle. So we'll see what happens.
All right, so next we got Lillay's team with the plus minus wars, and this is a really fun team. Just looking at it again, Garchomp is always a menace. Primarina always a menace. Just some really hard hitting offense for sure. Just just it's also got some really good speed tiers with Rabombi not only being above the base 120s, but also getting webs as well to help with stuff. So, maybe you can run Swords Dance that week that you would otherwise want Scarf Chomp or something. So it's one of those teams where it's like it's just a good team, plain simple. Like there's no real flaws. Like you could get a little nitpicky. Like I have no idea what Raticate is supposed to do other than be a normal type, or does he need Regirock when he's already got one of the best hazard setters in the game in Skarmory? A little bit debatable. But it can set hazards. It can hit really hard, and it's fast. It's got bulk. This team is just a good team that can do pretty much everything.
Yeah. There's some very Lillay picks on this team. Like Mega Houndoom. I knew he was going to take Mega Houndoom. Regirock is a very Lillay pick. He also, I think, sniped half the league apparently on Primarina, which was always fun. I like this team. I like most Lillay teams. He builds teams that I would like to use. They're fun. They're exciting. He's got some pretty good speed tiers in my book. 124 is not too bad, and then they step down pretty logically. He has webs. I love Thundy Eye. Like Thundy Eye and Torn Eye are maybe my favorite of that kind of line. I really dynamic mixed attackers. 111 speed tiers, ridiculous. Mega Houndoom is going to be a menace in D tier. That's insanity. At 140 special attack in D tier is just busted. So the Bisharp move, I feel like that was more for the memes. I don't really get that one, but cool, whatever. I like Bisharp. Let's see it. Gallade E is crazy good in my opinion. But yeah, the Bisharp, the Raticate, those do kind of feel like whatever, this should work. They don't feel like the most cohesive mons for the roster, which probably would have bumped it up to an A for me, but really good roster. There's no reason why this isn't a playoff team.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I actually think the Gallade fits really nicely here, and this is actually a roster that kind of lets it shine a little bit more. There's quite a few stack types like double flying, double dark, double fairy, but they're all done in a very double steel as well. All done in a very like methodical, just thought out way that I think like Lillay would only really be able to like take advantage of the way the mons are put together. Um, although for double dark, I'm not super sold on the Bisharp and the Houndoom together. I feel like if you're gonna grab an offensive dark and you want a second one, you probably grab a bulkier one so you can have something that reliably switches into psychics, or maybe like both aren't weak to fighting, but at least they're both not weak to fairy, which you know, upsides and downsides everywhere you look. I think I'm prepping for him week one, so I don't want to share too much of what my ideas are right now, but
Sure.
I think once you break one of his higher tier mons like Skarmory, Primarina, Garchomp for the amount of immunities you're going to be relying on that mon for when you really want it to sweep. I think the rest kind of just crumbles with it a little bit. Although I refuse to sleep on Regirock because that's what got me out of playoffs last season, and he's very smart with that mon, so I don't dare question that pick whatsoever. His trades I think was like Muck for Dusknoir and Jellicent for Bisharp, which I don't really love the Bisharp, but I do love the Dusknoir, so I think overall it worked out fine.
Yeah, I will just point out because I don't think we did. Like his top 5 have a pretty like heavy ice weakness. Primarina being the only real answer there. Skarmory is going to be neutral to it. You don't love that. You don't love that.
Yeah, you don't, but this is where Regirock comes in, and I'd say if it was any other coach with this team, I might even go lower than I did and say B minus. But it's a Lillay, so I know even though we're supposed to be grading teams, I know he's gonna make it work.
I actually just had a really neat thought for this, but what if so he has a Mega Houndoom, but like what if you like replace Roserade with like either a Venusaur or a Victory Bell, one of like and then Bisharp with like Torkoal or something, so he could put the D tier Mega Houndoom in the sun.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mega,
that would be
Mega
that
Houndoom's
would
stupid.
that would be interesting. I don't hate that honestly. Primarina gets Weather Ball, so it can work in Sun.
Voting for Mega Houndoom and D was dumb. Whoever did that. That was dumb.
Yeah, I believe he snipes people on the Houndoom as well.
Alright. Moving on. We have Inkfish and the Toronto Staraptors noticeably not drafting Staraptor. Which is a real concern for me. And that's the primary reason we all gave it Fs. But real talk, this roster is, in a word, strange. He has like crazy offense up front. Mawile is top 3, top 5 in terms of megas. Galarian Darmanitan is odd, but hits unreasonably hard. And then Azelf, really dynamic mixed attacker. It's fun. It's just a fun mon to use. But his speed tiers on this team kind of stink. Like 115 is your top speed. That was fast in like Gen 4, Gen 5. That is slow as dirt now. His team relies on Flygon a ton. Like his earthquake answer is Flygon. His electric answer is Flygon. I don't know. There's a lot going on there. Melodic Arcanine is annoying as all get out and should be really tough defensive core. Mawile, Galarian Darm should ensure that he always has offensive options. But this roster, it definitely feels a little disjointed to me. Doesn't particularly set hazards well. It doesn't particularly remove hazards all that well, although it has some low tier removal options. And then I think he did trade Audino for Wigglytuff, right?
Yeah, he traded after grace period. So this is his roster for week 1. For week 2, Wigglytuff will take the place of Audino.
Yeah, which fixes none of the things that I'm concerned about. So, yeah, it's fun. I'm sure he'll do well with it. There are some teams that are just going to be absolutely overwhelmed by Mawile and Darmanitan. Just absolutely 100% is going to happen. But I could also see him being overwhelmed by not having the right kind of mons to switch into the right kind of hits.
For sure. I mean, you point out everything I want to say. Pretty much like the Flygons is relied on too heavily defensively, and I kind of look at it, and it's almost like my team where, except kind of flipped, where my top half is like very specially offensive, his top half's very physically offensive. He's got 2 great walls in Melodic Arcanine. He doesn't have a grass type to round out the grass water fire core, and I guess that's kind of where Flygon is being forced into that defensive role. And you don't really want to run Flygon defensive every week. You do if you have to, but I see it as like a right now as the roster stands, it's a 13 game Flygon that's running like max HP and some speed and mostly defense SPDF with like Roost U-turn defog toxic sort of deal or earthquake. The Alolan Sandslash sticks out to me like a sore thumb. I don't know, he used a grace period trade for that. I'm gonna look right now and see what he dropped, but here he has a steel type in Mawile that's around the same speed tier and better attacker. And he already has an ice type too in Galarian Darmanitan, which is a lot faster, better attacker. He dropped Appleton for Flygon, and he dropped Piloswine for Alolan Sandslash. I mean, Appleton at least gave you a Grassmon, but I guess the Flygon, I guess it's good to have a ground type too. But I mean, overall, like I genuinely feel like there needs to be some trades happening in tier D and E. Looking to sub out the Alolan Sandslash as soon as possible for literally any grass type is better here. Like there's plenty of them in D, Chestnut, Virizion, Appleton, which you already dropped, I guess. You could go into E and look at things like Meganium, Torterra. Although if Torterra is not great with Flygon, you got to make some trades. I think Sableye is not a mon you put on a team like this. Sableye is a mon you put on a team like one of Keester's. I think he had it one season where you have a roster that's like already so far ahead, and it's like you just need things to fill the gaps, and you just want like some prankster priority. He needs like some bulky mon there in place of that. Swalot's also not offering really much of anything. The Wigglytuff for Audino, I guess that's just a preference thing. I don't think it makes too big a difference, but he needs some bulk, and he needs some special attackers.
Yeah, I completely agree with basically everything that was pretty much already said. I think this was the team where I said that like this man is actually going to go the entire season without facing a single assault vest, just because of how physically oriented the entire offense is. The first 2 Mega Mawile, Galarian Darmanitan, absolutely ridiculous, but the rest of the roster around it, once you get past the Milotic and Arcanine, it's just not great. I'm kind of regurgitating what's already been said, but yeah, I didn't like that the Flygon was being forced to do so much, and yeah, it just now clicked that part of why was because it didn't have a grass type, which was a little weird. So, it could definitely be better for sure, even if it has some pretty scary threats on it.
There's even room to switch out the Galarian Darmanitan for something, but I don't know what offhand.
Yeah, but the offense will absolutely overwhelm some people.
Yep.
There's no question about it. But even like a, maybe a Hydreigon for the Darmanitan would be, pretty nice.
Yeah.
Would offer some special attack there. I don't know, I'm spitballing at this point, but it's a fun roster. I could see it being fun to use, but I'm concerned it will become just frustrating when you're like, how do I swap into this? Oh, I don't. Okay, well, that's cool. Anyway, on to, I believe, our last team.
Yep, Amerillo is the last team. We're kind of a little split on this. Brad being a little bit more negative than me and Cameruption, giving it a C instead of a B. This team is it's interesting. It's weird. I think about this every season. I think Amerillo just comes into this league and is like, you know what? I've never made playoffs, but I still just want to make this too hard. How can I handicap myself? First season it was Mega Ampharos. Second season it was Mono Johto, and this season it's the half and half Trick Room, half like some of the fastest mons in the game with Coco and Serperior. And I guess Gliscor's a little faster, but not super fast. Galarian Moltres, I don't know what it's doing here, but it's here. It's gonna be strong. I think this team is just so puzzling that people are just gonna struggle to prep for it. They're not gonna know whether to expect Trick Room from things like Slowbro, P2 to support Mega Camerupt. I almost said Mega Cameruption. Dragalge, Fortress, and like all his slow mons. I think he's super knockoff weak, having two of Eviolite mons and Slowbro, and Gliscor wanting to have its Toxic Orb. Of course, you knock it off after; it doesn't really make too much of a difference. But if you knock it off on a switch in or turn one, it's not really happy. Yeah, I don't know. It's a question of trick room or not to trick room, and if so, like, how do you go from there? There's a lot of scary mons. I don't think the synergy is there at all, but I think Amarillo's used to using unconventional teams like this, and he's going to be able to pull out some wins before maybe some eventual trades come out, and we see more of a direction for his team.
Yeah, it's really not bad. It's just a little, not a bad team. It's just a little puzzling, going kind of piggybacking off of what you said. Let's. I imagine that there's actually I can pretty much almost state as a fact he's going to lose at least one game because his Trick Room mon dies, and then he has Tapu Koko in Trick Room at the very end. Like that just seems like inevitable almost, just with kind of the wonky way this team's a little constructed. But it has potential for sure. But with both the Dragalge and the Camel, and I don't see why he needs Dusclops when he already has two of the best Trick Room setters in Porygon and Slowbro. I think he kind of. I'm worried that he and Cravanimal too. I'm worried that he might have bit down a little too much on Trick Room, which is obviously in singles the more gimmicky side of this team. So even though there's some really strong mons on it, he has Mega Camerupt and Trick Room, so I feel like I'm pretty much obligated to like this team at least a little bit. But it's interesting, but I'm not convinced that crazy things won't happen and potentially screw him over.
There are a couple of things to really highlight about this team. One, if you're gonna draft one like fast mon, it's got to come every week. It's got to be your highest, fastest speed. Like Tapu Koko's unbelievable. I love Tapu Koko. Even despite the terrain nerf and despite this, that, and the other, like I personally rank Tapu Koko in my top 3 in the meta. Don't care what anybody says. So I'm fine with that being the fastest speed and coming to 13 games. I think that's great. My primary issue is 90 speed to 64 speed. Like the range of mons that fit in that group are some of my favorite mons in the game. And you're talking about adamant, modest, you're talking about extra investment all over the place. Teams are going to be able to steal 120 extra in bulk that they weren't expecting to, because these speed tiers are just awful. And oftentimes when I'm prepping, I make the choice of like, okay, I'm going to ignore this mon that's 80 speed because I don't really think it's likely to come, or because even if it comes, it's a pretty bad mon. It shouldn't be able to harm me. Like, he has nothing in a lot of like major, like really important speed tiers, like base 100. How many mons are base 100? How many great mons are base 100? How many great mons are base 80? Even 70? Like, that's a really significant issue. And that's ignoring all the other stuff, like the knockoff weaknesses. Really, really pervasive on this team. Like, ignoring all that and just the speeds alone is a full letter grade, if not more, for me. Then you add the knockoff weakness, you add some of the other challenges. I couldn't go higher than a C. That being said, there are some cool things on this team. There's some cool offense on this team. I adore Coco. I think it's fantastic. I think he can put pieces together to make a solid team of 6. But this is, to me, this is a prove it roster. Like, I'm not going to believe this can work until he proves it. And Amerillo is good. Amarillo's my boy. I like him. I know he's talented. He can prove us wrong, prove me wrong here. But this roster is not helping him be better than he has been in the past. This roster is holding him back from being great, in my opinion. And I hope to be wrong. So, final rankings. Who would have thought? A minus, A minus, A minus, A minus, A minus, A minus.
A lot of A minuses, a lot of Bs. I'd say we don't see this season doesn't have the best teams we've ever seen in the ASL, but it doesn't have any of the worst either. It's a lot of the middle of the road. I don't really particularly love any roster. I don't particularly hate any roster. And I'd say there's like things you could fix on every team. I'd say, like pretty much any A minus team, I'd say you probably want to leave it alone for quite a few weeks until you notice like something glaringly obvious that other coaches are picking up on. I don't know. It's just kind of like one of those things. I do think funny thing is like this is probably the biggest season for low tier fairies. Like I feel like half the coaches have their fairies from D&E, if not more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's just really interesting to see that.
A lot of offensive fairies were picked this season.
For sure.
Yeah, I'll say just as a league in general, I've done so many different tiering sessions, and I've done so many different sessions where we talk about the league and we're like, okay, how do we make sure that we have a balanced, competitive format in which we can enjoy this competition? And I think that this is evident that we've done that. The highest team is an A minus, the lowest team is a C, plus minus whatever that means. I think that would just be a regular old C. So, I mean, we don't have any one team that we're saying is exceptionally great and above and beyond. We don't have any one team that we're saying is just so bad that it can't win games. So as a league administrator, I like that this is job well done. Great job, those that involved in tiering this off season. Great job to all of you. Appreciate the work, and this should provide a really good format for us to have a good time. And we'll see. At the end of the season, if the teams in green are our playoffs teams, the teams in yellow are struggling, and the teams in red are at the bottom, maybe this ranking matters. If not, then maybe we just don't know what we're talking about. And
Anything you want to add,
Cameruption's not
Cameruption?
saying anything. He's like, I'm done. I'm out.
He's like, we've been on call for 2 hours.
No, y'all just all just about summed it up. Yeah, it's I mean, obviously this is only my third season being here, but yeah, I kind of agree with don't see any obviously any coach has the potential for like an all-time great ASL draft, but it seems like some very, very good teams across the board. So I'm excited to see how the season goes.
All right. Well, that's it. Thank you guys for hanging out.
One last question as far as format goes.
Okay.
And I'd like to put this on the recording so we have it on record. You said for the data mine moves that we allowed in previous seasons, you said leave it up to majority vote because the whole thing was supposed to be deleted. The format's still there. So you said majority vote. I put up the question. Everyone's voted. It's 7-7.
Yeah.
What's your call?
So it's 7-7. What we said originally was that leaked moves stands. There was no majority vote saying that leaked moves shouldn't stand. So therefore, they do. It will remain as it was.
All right. So no more of the data mine moves for like DLC moves for mons that never made it into Switch or TMs. All right. Glad it's on the recording. Also, I apologize for laughing. Mogo just started battling. His avatar is absolutely freaking hilarious.
All right. We'll see you out there.